Martin Ferris. Thank you.
I think it's so important and essential that regarding the debate that's taking place in here and taking place outside this House, that it's carried out in a respectful and cordial manner, with everyone's point of view being heard, and obviously people not to go down the road as 1983, when during the debate at that point in time there was some vicious attacks on people, people called murderers, and so forth at that time, and that a lot of that debate was disgraceful. And thankfully, thus far, the debate has been very, very respectful, and that's the way it should continue. Like many people, like many colleagues in this House, this is really a very difficult decision for any of us to make, or a very difficult decision in relation to that. And I think all of us will agonise to some degree in relation to whatever position we take on it. And I never really gave it much thought. From 1983, I remember that, and then I had a personal experience in my own family. And in 2001, my son and his wife, they were expecting their first child to be our first grandchild. And about 4.5 to 5 months into the pregnancy, they were told that their child would not have any independent life, that the brain of the baby in the womb had not developed and was not going to develop, and may not survive birth. And if it did survive birth, it would not be for very long. The part of the medical reports that I got from their gynecologists and so forth was that there was a danger that the baby would die in the womb, and the consequences were outlined what that could be. And the suggestion was made that they could go for inducement, early inducement, or they could seek a termination outside the country. And my son and my daughter-in-law came to my wife Marie and myself with this news, and they were devastated. And obviously, so were we. But they were looking for guidance and how they would deal with it. Would they seek the termination in order to protect the life of the mother, or would they take a chance and see the pregnancy out? But there was no doubt whatsoever that the child would not survive. They took a decision to persevere, and in the hope that nothing would happen to my daughter-in-law. The baby was born in 2002, early 2002. I think it was just over 7.5 months, but obviously it was inducement. And the baby lived 58 minutes and died in their arms. We were all there, and I will never forget it, because if it had went the other way, the 4 children that I've had since would not be in this world. They have 2 lovely little girls and 2 little boys since. They're no longer little, they're 14, 11, 9 and 6. And they have a grave for the baby that was born that just survived 58 minutes. Her name is Shodine. And they go to that grave very, very frequently. Her mother and father go every week, and obviously that little girl's brothers and sisters go regularly as well. So I consider them very, very fortunate and very lucky. Very lucky insofar as that it could have went terribly wrong. And maybe if the abortion facility was available in this country at that time, it might have been different. Anyway, things worked out well. I've given a lot of thought to this over the last number of months, like my comrades in Sinn Féin, and Looking at it, try and put yourself in a position if your daughter was a victim of rape, if the fatal fetal abnormalities was the situation again, and if the only way out was to get on the boat and go to England and have a termination. And I don't know if many of you heard that lady this morning being interviewed on the radio, and it was heartbreaking because she gave an account of being in a very similar position to my daughter-in-law. She took the decision, because obviously there was in danger of cancer and so forth at that time, she took the decision that she would seek a termination. She went to England to have that termination, and she broke down many times, and she's describing it. And she said something, you know, that her one regret is that she didn't have her mother present with her when she came out of after having her pregnancy terminated. And the cruelest part of all, Ciancola, was that both her and her husband had to bring that baby home. And they got a little coffin, and then obviously there was a delay, and the time factor, and because of the time of the year it was, the weather being very warm and so forth, they had to go out and buy ice packs to put in the coffin to bring their baby home. And they'd done that in a bus with the coffin on their knee, and they described the difficulties they had in the bus, obviously. But when they came to the port, when they got back to this jurisdiction in the port, they came to a checkpoint or whatever, and the gardener looked in, and to his credit, he waved them through. Now, when I listened to that this morning, any doubts I had whatsoever was wiped away. Because we, as legislators, have failed that woman. We have failed the 3,500 people who go each year. We have failed those 8,000 or 9,000 people that get abortion pills on an annual basis. And we have failed a lot of the people that was mentioned by Deputy Connolly in her speech there just a few minutes ago. So I think we have to do the right thing. I think we have to support the repeal and debate what will follow, and to empower the legislators to do their job, which we're elected to do. I think that let people who have been through what that woman described this morning on the radio, let her testimony be help to all of us who have a tough decision to make. And I have no doubt that she touched an awful lot of people. I know in my lifetime that I have had people to come to me before I was ever elected that had terminations, that had to go on the boat to England. Young people in particular had to go on the boat to England. No support when they came back, hidden. No counselling or nothing that was necessary. They couldn't, afraid to go for it in case somebody would find out. The stigma attached to it, created by the lack of legislation to help people to find a remedy. But if we can do this right, if we can put in position, I think there's states in America that I read about recently where the scaremongering that's out there by some people, that you'll open the floodgates and so forth. In actual fact, in states of America where they put proper procedures in place, it has absolutely reduced it down to the minimum. And it's, they have counselling facilities prior to it. There's a decision-making time, a delay of a decision-making time in order for people to make sure that there's no other option. And then if there is a termination, there is counselling facilities to help them. So that should be an example for all of us. I think, in conclusion, Count Cora, we will be failing the hundreds of thousands of women that have left this country, stigmatised as criminals. We will have failed those people today and tomorrow that are taking the boat, like that lady this morning, and in some cases bringing back their child in a coffin for burial. We will have failed them. So I will be supporting a repeal of the 8, and I will would like to take part in the debate that follows here regarding legislation that comes through. And finally, Minister, the first debate here, the leaders' debate here that took place when you brought in the announced what was to happen, I thought it was one of the best contributions I had from all the leaders. Like it showed that the maturity of how you dealt with it and how you presented it here, and the respectful way that you done it, and long may that continue during this debate.
Deputy Robert.